Hello and welcome to stuff.jpg, a podcast about images and stuff. I'm Holly St Clair. I am an illustrator and educator, less and less frequently, but, still counts. And I am your host. And with me today is my sister, Frankie.
Ooh, hello.
Frankie, do you want to say anything about yourself?
Nah.
You stay mysterious.
Yeah. I'm really good at making people think I'm mysterious until they meet me more than twice and they're like, that is the most open book that's ever existed. So if I come on another episode, then I'll let people know a bit more about
You'll
myself.
be like, this is where I work. These are the people I work with.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Okay. Before we start, in my notes, I wrote, do a vibe check-in.
Yeah.
How you feeling? How you doing?
I'm pretty good, yeah. I'm all right.
Decent. I'm glad. Because I'm about to make you... Oh. I'm fine.
Sweet.
I know. It's fine. I'm doing fine.
You still mad about Dad eating your ice cream?
I am.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. I got a little bit of a stick from the first episode that released because I kept making fun of Steve Jobs' kid for not having a dad. And I actually think it was because I was jealous.
Ours is so involved.
He's so involved. He's just there all the time.
Oh, he's so sweet though. He's actually the sweetest human on the planet.
But I did open the bin and find the carcass of my Ben and Jerry's.
That's so sad. And we all have a story like that about Dad where he's eating our food and it's made us so upset.
It's so upsetting.
Whenever I describe him to people, I always say, if I met an alien and they wanted to know what a dad stereotype was, I would just show them my dad. He's every single thing that is the most stereotypical thing about dads. He
actually is. Oh my God. His favourite activity is to go outside and look at his lawn.
Yeah. Tend to his lawn, look at the plants, check on the road to make sure the road's not crumbling away. Check that there's still cars on the A3. He's like, yeah, still cars there. Great. The world is as it should be.
Going to the drains and using his keys to take the leaves out because he's a good citizen.
Using old bloody train tickets to clean his teeth. That is the most disgusting thing that he does.
Rank.
And he's always done it and it's so gross.
Oh my God.
I don't understand how he could get a train ticket in between his teeth. Anyway, this is so gross. Anyway.
It's fine. Well, that's an example of a good father. And now we're going to talk about a really bad father.
Oh dear. Is it Elon Musk?
No.
Oh, thank God.
Maybe worse? I'm not sure. Frankie, today we're talking about OJ Simpson.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't know he had kids.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah, he did.
Cut that bit out. It sounds stupid.
That's all right. So I need to do a little content warning up front for kind of the all the big ones. We got racism, we've got misogyny, we've got violence. We'll talk about crime. Yeah. So Frankie, because you have to listen to this now. I'm gonna play a little game with you. So if at any time you're like, I need to tap out, it's too depressing.
Yeah.
Just say the word, and instead we will do a would you rather question.
Can I just do that if I need help refocusing instead?
Yes, you can also do that as well.
Yeah. I was going to say, the people won't know, but because of my job, there's no conversation we could have that I would find too uncomfortable. But I will probably need help refocusing every now and again. Also, I realised in the last 5 minutes of us recording that I'm a very active listener, and I don't know if that's good for podcasting because I just constantly go, yep, yeah, great. And I don't know if that's good because I'm not just talking over you the whole time.
It's fine because we're on separate audio tracks. We can just mute you.
Oh my God. Genius.
Okay. Are you ready for the piece of art, the image that we are looking at this week?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, wait.
Great.
It's me. And you. Okay, now are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Boom, boom.
Oh.
Frankie, please can you say what you see in front of you?
I see a picture of OJ Simpson. From the way that it's shot, I would assume that that's a mugshot that's been really overexposed and the contrast's been bumped up big time. And then, it's a magazine cover, I guess. Oh, it says underneath, Time Magazine cover. Using my context clues, I would say that that's a magazine cover.
So yes, today we will be talking about this particular cover of Time Magazine from June 27, 1994. The cover is famous for featuring a manipulated mugshot of one OJ Simpson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this cover is actually one of the first topics I really wanted to cover on stuff.jpg. It's a really interesting and quite deep intersection of media, illustration, journalistic ethics, and kind of the social issues that are all tied to the case itself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give a brief overview of the crime and why the cover even exists. But I wanted to say that, if anyone wants a proper deconstruction and a proper recounting of the OJ Simpson trial and the case, they should watch OJ Made in America. It's a documentary series from 2016, and it's very, very thorough, and it gives all of the kind of necessary context and history that...
And you're wrong about they should finish their series of the OJ Simpson case that they were doing, but they'll never finish it because Michael's not on that podcast anymore, and it's so sad.
I know. I really loved that series.
I know, they only got to the chase, I think. I don't think they did any of the trial afterwards.
No, and that's kind of the problem with this case, because we're really only going to talk about this image in particular, but the case and everything around it there's so much happens. I had coffee with friend of the show, Lily, who's been on 2 times now. And Lily's from Hong Kong, and she's never heard of any of this stuff. And so I just sat down and was I told her the story of it. And then I looked at the clock and I was like, shit, it's been half an hour.
Mm-hmm.
But she was like, this is the nuttiest story I've ever heard. Okay, I'm going to tell you the story.
Mm-hmm. Is it going to take half an hour?
I really hope not. I'm doing bare bones. Here we go. On June 12, 1994, Nicole Brown Simpson and her friend Ron Goldman were found stabbed to death outside of Brown's Brentwood condo in LA. A cap and a single leather glove were left at the scene, and a trail of blood showed that the murderer had walked away with an injury. Family were alerted, and for Nicole, this included her ex-husband and the father of her children, Orenzel James Simpson. It's always a James. Also known as OJ. Where to start with OJ? Frankie, I didn't actually ask you, how much do you know or remember about the case? Because I remember we watched the documentary together.
Yeah, we watched the documentary together, and I watched the People versus OJ Simpson show.
We are going to talk about that later.
Yeah, and I've listened to a lot of podcasts about it.
Okay, cool.
I think I've what's the word? I've consumed a lot of media around this case, but also one of my best/worst traits is that I have a really horrible memory. So I can listen to the same story 17 times and not tell you any more detail. But I picked up a few things from this one.
Okay, so if you think that
Spoiler, he doesn't go to jail. But he does die in the end, so...
Yeah, I mean, we all die in the end, but he did. Yeah, he died. Yeah. That was a good day. Okay, so knowing that, if you at any time want to jump in and add anything that you think is relevant, feel free.
I cannot be certain that anything I say is real though, so I probably won't do that.
That's fine. Okay, so this is OJ in his prime, in the kind of at his most famous and most beloved in the Hertz print adverts. He was also in the TV adverts too, and he was kind of their not mascot, spokesperson.
Yeah, he's like a sponsor, isn't he?
Yeah.
It's like his real proportions in the second picture.
What do you mean?
As in, like, his head looks stuck on and way too big for his body.
Oh, he's got a big head.
Has he?
Yeah,
but where's his neck?
Big football, innit?
Yeah. Got squished down into him.
Yeah. No, he has got a massive head.
Yeah, that picture on the right doesn't even look like... It looks like his face has been stuck onto a random man running.
Could also be, like, bad, like, 80s Photoshop, but he does have a big head. So, OJ Simpson was an ex-football player, the really shit American kind, and he was an actor, and he was very, very famous. OJ was also a domestic abuser. I'm not going to mince my words about this. While he was with Nicole Brown Simpson, he beat her. He beat her when they fought. He beat her during sex. He beat her in front of other people. Then after they finally split in 1992, he stalked her. Simpson also explicitly threatened to kill Nicole if he ever caught her with another man. And before anyone asked, police reports had been filed, and Brown allegedly contacted a women's shelter for advice. She did all of the things women are supposed to do when they are abused, but a no-contact separation was impossible. Nicole relied on Simpson for money. She was only... I didn't actually know this. She was only 18 when they met, and he was 30. This is Nicole. So she was a waitress while they dated, and he was one of the most famous men in America, so it was obviously a huge power imbalance. Then when they got married, Nicole was not permitted to maintain employment. It was actually written into their prenup that she wasn't allowed to have a job.
That is insane.
It's pretty textbook financial abuse. Yeah.
I think we've ticked off all of the types of coercive control so far.
Yep.
And then obviously the 12 steps to homicide, we know what happened with that stuff. So
what's the 12 steps to homicide?
So there is a researcher, her name is Jane Monkton Smith, and she did a lot of research on behaviours of abusers who kill their spouses or ex-spouses, or does spouse only refer to someone that's married?
I think so.
Okay, well then it's like abusers that kill their partners, but usually at the time they're ex-partners. And there is, she went through like over 300 cases and found patterns of what existed in every case. And there was always stalking behaviour. There was always coercive control during the relationship. After a relationship, there was always harassment, stalking. And then basically she developed this 12 steps sort of. I think I'm thinking, well, it might be 9 steps. I can't remember. There's a certain amount of steps anyway. And the final step is that, they kill them. And like from what you've just shared there, OJ Simpson was showing all of the signs, basically.
Yeah. So OJ and Nicole had 2 children together. They were just 6 and 9 years old at the time of her murder. They were asleep inside when it happened. And this is the other victim. This is Ron Goldman. Simpson was likely a stranger to Ron Goldman. He was a friend of Nicole's. He was an aspiring actor. He was also a waiter at a restaurant that she went to a lot. And she had dined there with family on the night of the murders. And it's believed that Goldman was dropping off some lost glasses to Nicole. And then they were attacked. So, that night, police officers, including Mark Furman, the Nazi cop, went to Simpson's home. His car was outside, parked at a weird angle. There was blood on his door. And because of this, Furman entered the grounds of the home where he found another leather glove, the famous leather glove. Simpson was not at home. He had flown to Chicago hours prior. He returned to LA, and on the 13th of June, he was interviewed by police. Simpson had a cut on his finger. He gave his DNA for comparison. It was a match to the blood on the door, the gloves, and the blood at the crime scene. It's actually, so mad that there was any sort of question on his innocence or guilt. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, we can talk about that later. So on June 17th, Simpson is charged with murder. He is notified at 8:30 a.m. and given until noon to hand himself in, allowing time for him to be assessed by a psychiatrist for suicidal ideation, which, correct me if I'm wrong, Frankie, but that is also another kind of classic kind of domestic abuse.
It's a threat used against partners to say like, you can't leave me or I'll end my life. It's used to like control someone and make them too scared to leave. But also to stop them from acting out in fear that person will.
And I think, I mean, at this point, like, his victim's already gone, but I think
he'd then use it as a manipulation tactic.
It's a way of getting people around him to comply and to go with.
You get emotive responses out of it. That's why people use it.
Yes, you do. At this time, Simpson is staying at the Kardashian household. Yep, those Kardashians. He has updated his will and written 3 letters, one to each of his children, his mother, and then one to the public. Simpson never hands himself in. Instead, he flees with close friend Al Callings. The letter to the public is read by Robert Kardashian on live TV. A low-speed car chase occurs. The whole thing is, of course, televised. Eventually, Simpson and Cowlings return to Simpson's home. He is finally arrested. And that brings us to this issue of Time Magazine. Frankie, do you know what an editorial illustration is?
I mean, I know what an illustration is and I know what editorial means, but I could maybe guess what editorial illustration means. I guess an illustration created for an editorial?
Yes. Yeah. So it's an illustration that will accompany a article or goes alongside a magazine spread. I've done a few of them. Cover illustrations also are a kind of editorial illustration because it's kind of, the idea is that it's enticing people to want to buy the magazine to learn more about the article inside.
And does illustration necessarily mean like a drawing or a piece of art, or can it be like an edited photo? Yeah,
edited photos definitely do count.
Okay.
There are sort of grey areas. This sits in a grey area. We'll talk about how it was made. But yeah, things where a photograph has been heavily manipulated, it can't be. It's actually against the law particularly in this country, to label that as kind of photojournalism because it has been edited. That's why Kate Middleton got in so much trouble for the dodgy Photoshop on her like family photos, because they were sent to the Associated Press as kind of authentic images, and something can't be authentic if it has been
edited.
Yeah, to that extent. You know, like enhancing a photo is one thing. Giving the little Prince Louis like 6 fingers is a whole other thing. So in editorial illustration, the text and image are often created in tandem, with text kind of having a head start. With developing stories, editorial turnaround can be as quick as like a few hours. So I think it'd be useful to know what the illustration is advertising is about. So just bear in mind that the illustrator who created the cover would not have read the full text, but in this case, they received kind of direct instructions from an art director and an editor who told them what to do, basically. Throughout the article, there's a feeling of viewing the case as a drama in the kind of tragic theatrical sense, which kind of, I felt like it removes a lot of the intimacy and the brutality of the actual crime. It becomes this like spectacle. So I'm just going to read this.
It puts it at a distance, doesn't it? If it's a show, there's a screen between you and what's happening. It doesn't make it feel like it's something that exists in your reality.
It's almost like a coping mechanism for people.
And it's commonly used when it comes to domestic abuse because no one wants to accept that could be something that happens within their realm. So exactly.
I've got this extract here. Okay. Pundits trotted out Shakespeare for references. Talk radio hosts searched for larger meanings about the destruction of black male role models, the special treatment of celebrities by police, the danger women face from the men who profess to love them. But by the end of the week, with the last astounding twist to the case, it seemed that there was no larger meanings, just a howling, monstrous tragedy. It's quite funny for them to be like, the last astounding twist of the case. Nothing else could possibly happen.
Yeah, and then everything happened. Little did they know they were just in Act 1.
Exactly. The article deals with the kind of concept of celebrity, that fans were mourning not only two victims they had never known, but the hero they thought they did. And that's a quote from the article.
Mm.
The kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of iconic image of OJ is also covered. This is another quote. He had smiled at them for years, first as one of the rare great sportsmen, unruined by his gifts or his fame, warm, grateful, ready to sign one more autograph when he was dog-tired and overstretched. He ripened into the affable ABC commentator, the smooth, corporate pitchman, even a plausible movie star. Which is, again, we see this a lot when people write about domestic abusers, where it's glowing praise of him. And it's like...
Well, abusers need there to be people to talk about them fondly. Otherwise, they'd just be exiled. You can't be horrible to everyone, because then you'll never get any praise. And you're not... You're then... It's more difficult to be an abuser because there's notions around you. Instead, you just become a horrible person. So it's easier and it's more powerful to have a positive personality that other people can account for. It makes your victim less believable.
Yeah, that's so true. I hadn't actually thought of that, but it's kind of when people talk about grooming, people groom their victims, but they also groom the people around the victims as well.
It's all a form of manipulation, and they'll always make sure that if there's someone so close to them that they're abusing, there'll be someone just as close that they're being lovely to, because then people will just pit those people against each other, and they're usually women as well.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Damn.
Maybe I should say that I do have a psychology background, so it doesn't just sound like I'm spouting all of this from nowhere.
I think it's very obvious that you know what you're talking about.
I have a published article about domestic abuse, so there you go.
Yes, you do. The article also includes an anecdote from Simpson's past. I didn't know this. He had a young daughter who drowned after falling into a pool.
Oh my God.
And it was a complete tragic accident. But apparently when he arrived to the hospital, he was shouting at his wife at the time, his ex-wife, and like calling her a murderer and like berating her in front of everybody. And I feel it's like, it was like a tiny paragraph in this article, and I was like, why did you include that? And it was sort of, I don't know, it felt like they were planting the seeds of maybe he did it. It stuck out to me when so much of the rest of the article...
What, as in murdered his daughter, you mean?
No, as in, like, he's not as... The idea that his private person is very different to his public person. So
you feel like they put all this energy building a character of him that was what the public saw, and then they included this very small snippet, which was actually quite a look into what he was like personally.
Yeah. In a moment of like extreme stress and extreme, like in a very intimate moment with his wife at the time, there is this kind of aggression and like blame, and when it was a complete just freak accident. But yeah, they had to be like separated at the hospital, and yeah, I just thought it was interesting that they chose to include that. So domestic violence is kind of present in the reporting, but the tone of everything is that it's really sad that these things are happening to him. For example, they report that OJ was charged with spousal battery, and he was fined and placed on 2 years probation. And then they note that he was signed to a broadcasting contract with NBC Sports like 3 months later after this happened. But then all of the reports are tempered with like it's that whole like myth of reactive abuse, that like the couple were, this is a quote, two passionate people, that they both had tempers and they both had responsibility.
Yeah, I'd have a fucking temper if someone kept beating the shit out of me as well.
Right?
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. There's also an excerpt from the letter that was read by Robert Kardashian. And I think this like is so... Oh, it's so emblematic of the way that abusers can justify their abuse. So he says, this is the letter that OJ wrote. He said, "If we had a problem, it's because I loved her so much. At times I have felt like a battered husband or boyfriend, but I loved her."
Oh my God. That is just so typical.
Right?
It's like, I love so hard that I don't know how to control my love, and it becomes anger. But you know what?
And it's actually me that's the victim.
Yeah, I'm actually the one that's in the wrong here. And like one of the things that always comes up for me around this case is like, back then domestic abuse was seen as like battering. You know, that's all that people saw it as, was the physical abuse.
Yeah.
But writing into a prenup that someone is not allowed to have a job is financial abuse. And like that, it's not legal. You wouldn't be able to do that anymore. Like write into a prenup that someone's not allowed to work, because that's financial isolation and financial abuse. But that stuff never comes up at the time, because it was only the physical abuse that anyone ever, and the physical abuse is usually the last thing and the most controllable sort of abuse for the victim. Like they know what causes the physical abuse, so they know what to avoid. It's the other bits of abuse that are so long, like sorry, I don't know what I'm trying to say.
No,
it's like,
I think
the physical abuse for a victim sometimes can be the easiest to control from their side, because they know what actions cause what reactions. But the other bits of abuse that aren't spoken about are the bits that will literally be brainwashing them all throughout the day, the bits that control them and change their entire perspective of themselves in the world that they're living in. And they never get spoken about. It's like, oh yeah, he battered a woman.
Yeah.
This is just like, it makes it sound like an incident rather than a pattern of behavior.
Yes. Yeah,
know?
Exactly. And it puts so much kind of, it's like sharing the responsibility thing of like, particularly for the person who's being abused, like they feel like, well, I know what triggers him to hit me or to beat me, and he's done it, so I must have done something wrong.
Exactly.
You know, it was my fault. I know where I shouldn't cross the line, and I must have done it in order for it to happen. And that's all part of the kind of coercive control. And
it perpetuates that self-blame, and the abuser will be telling them that also. They'll be saying like, you got me this angry.
Yeah, because he's just a passionate guy, you know?
I hate doing this to you. Why do you always make me do this to you? It's that sort of language.
I don't want to do this because I love you so much, but you make me.
Yeah.
God, so textbook.
It really is. And I think that's the most unfortunate. Like, I find that the saddest sometimes is when things are so textbook and they just get ignored.
Yeah.
And the textbooks were there even back then. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I do wonder if it's part of the kind of the language that people used about domestic abuse at the time, because they would call it, like, he was charged with spousal battery.
I hate that word.
Which is like, it sounds so, yeah, like it's like you said, like it doesn't really account for all the non-physical things, all the things that can happen before someone even like lays a hand on you.
Psychological warfare.
Exactly. That literally changes people's brain chemistry.
Yeah. Like there's a lot of research that talks about domestic abuse as a form of brainwashing. Like you're taking control of someone's entire perception of life.
It's true.
And the perception of themselves. And they use a lot of brainwashing tactics that are used in, like, I don't know, I'm not smart enough to know specifically when they're used, but like in wars and stuff, they use the same sort of tactics, you know? There's similarities.
Yeah. It's undermining people. It's like...
People refer to it as brain hacking.
Brain hacking.
Yeah.
Interesting. The last thing I'll say about this article is that it really does feel like Ron and Nicole are footnotes. Ron is barely mentioned. There's like a tiny photo of him in the like middle image, and that's it.
Oh yeah. That's so sad.
So sad. So sad. Particularly as it's kind of like he just happened to be there, and it's like, yeah, it feels like a disservice to him as a whole human to just kind of be like, oh yeah, and the other victim.
And yeah, and I do wonder, like, from my knowledge of the case, like with the knowledge of how jealousy was a lot for, like OJ would use jealousy against like would use jealousy to like excuse his actions basically. And I wonder if arriving at the house, or I think he was already at the house, wasn't he, or something like that, and then seeing a man coming to the house after her, how that would have affected things as well, you know, like it was just a horrible
well, he said it. He literally said it to her. If I see you with another man, I will kill you. Like, I think we have to believe people when they say mad shit like this, you know? Okay. So let's talk about the image that accompanies the text. The cover was made by Matt Mahurin, who actually wrote about his experience in The Image Maker's Handbook, which is a 5-volume autobiography that he made. Lucky me.
Is it a picture book?
No, I wish it was.
It should be.
I only read the bit about this part of his career, and it was actually it was very illuminating. So sorry, Matt.
Maybe he's actually just an interesting guy.
Down.
He's got 5 volumes worth of information to share.
So the mugshot is released, and the editorial team at Time Magazine knew that Newsweek, which is like their competitor, would likely use the mugshot for their cover. So you have 2 magazines that are going to be releasing at the same time, both with the same photograph. So Mahurin was tasked with altering the image to make it stand out, basically. They said, we need to make it so that people don't even look at Newsweek, they look at our cover. So
this is the unedited one?
Also, like, who took this photo? I'm sorry, but...
Yeah, what? He's literally not in the middle of the photo whatsoever. It's killing me.
So, this is the quote from, what was his thing called? The Image Maker's Handbook. Just as the director of a play will lower the lights during a dramatic moment, as a visual artist, I use shadow and light to portray the main character of this real-life drama. So Matt Mahurin said that he was unaware of how the darkening of Simpson's skin would be perceived. Frankie, how do you think it was perceived?
Well, like, yeah, I think people probably saw it as a form of colorism. He was trying to darken his skin tone to what's the word? Insinuate. Imply? Yeah, like insinuate that he had all of those negative attitudes that people like to connect to darker skin tones. Yeah,
he's comparing him to a villain in a play almost, or also kind of like a hero that's maybe been struck down by like circumstance, which again is like, it's not circumstance, like he kind of did it himself. This, for comparison, is the Newsweek version.
Okay. They have edited it then.
They have. I think, well, it's hard to judge the colour of it. Nev-eek. Also, I'm sorry.
Gays.
I love it. It's healthcare, gays, Nev-eek, and then like the most. Oh god. Yeah, it's hard to judge the kind of the colouring of it because it's a scan of a magazine. But the contrast.
You can see the contrast is pretty much similar to.
It's similar. I think if anything, they've made it brighter. I'll show you a side by side.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. It does. Yeah, it really puts it into perspective. The comparison. Goodness me. Okay, let's.
I mean, he looks like he have a better hairline in the one on the left, to be fair, because of it. But other than that,
it's really
But even the sort of like shading around the corners, it's like, is this Tumblr? Or like, you know, when Instagram first became a thing and everyone used that. What's it called? Vignette? What's that thing called? Vignette around their pictures. No, but it's really stark there, isn't it? The differences.
And you can see there's been other photo manipulation as well, where they've both moved because of the off-centeredness of the original picture, they've both moved the booking in information, which is like interesting because
obviously they look completely different sizes on all the images, but his head looks pretty much the same size in all of them. Yeah, I get you.
And I think it's because, you know, they could have just cropped it out completely, but I think part of the storytelling of this illustration is that it's a mugshot. He's in prison. He's got this, like, his expression's really interesting to me, like, and you can see the way that lighting can manipulate how you read someone's emotions.
I was thinking even just in the original picture, he looks quite flash. Like, you can tell he's got nice clothes on, and they've even taken that out of it. Like, they've kind of fuzzed over all of his clothing, so you can't see that he's wearing, like, what you would consider quite a royal blue, like an expensive blue suit to be wearing, and he looks like he's wearing
Henley.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he just looks, in the original picture, you can tell that he's wearing, like, nicer, cleaner clothes. And then I feel like they've even tried to remove that from the image to try and change your perspective of him, you know?
That's so interesting. One of the things that people were particularly kind of upset about was that they made him look more unshaven.
Yeah, that it really does make him look like he's a bit more unkempt than he is in the original picture. Like, he looks very well groomed in the original picture.
And I feel like it is trying to really bring up that contrast to the kind of iconic images of OJ as the Hertz spokesman, who's like this well-dressed, like handsome guy, who's always looks like super fashionable, and like I think it's supposed to make people look at it and go, oh my God, what happened to him? I said we talk about it.
Hey.
Okay, so I read an interview with Larry, it's a Polish last name, Larry Karaszewski. Larry Karaszewski.
There you go.
And Scott Alexander, who were the creators of the TV drama series The People versus OJ Simpson, starring Cuba Gooding Jr., who I think the creators of the show decided to include the Time Magazine incident, scandal in an episode. And this is why. They said, we saw that as the first turning point where America started discussing OJ Simpson in terms of racial politics. Time Magazine made OJ blacker. And what does that mean? Black is more sinister, more guilty, and it actually started that discussion, and that is Mr. Larry K talking about that.
Yeah, because there was a lot of a discussion that he was considered quite like a white man, wasn't he? That they talk about him in that way.
Yeah, one of his quotes, that one of the things that he was known to say was "I'm not black, I'm OJ."
Yeah.
And he was kind of criticized by a lot of people in African American communities for not wanting to be seen as a part of the community, if that makes sense. Obviously, I can't speak too much about that because we are many things, but we are not African American. So one of the interesting things is from this series was that they chose the Time Magazine cover as like this dramatic turning point. It's the moment where John Travolta's character, the one with the eyebrows, decides they're going to play the quote-unquote race card. So Scott Alexander makes an interesting observation that I would like your points on. Your voice on. He said that if Newsweek hadn't run the mugshot unaltered, nobody would have noticed. What do you think?
Nobody would have noticed what? What's his intention with that?
No, there wouldn't have been a scandal if Newsweek hadn't also run the same cover. So if people hadn't been able to compare, there wouldn't have been any kind of, I
don't know. It's pretty apparent. It's not like a little bit of an edit.
I mean, if we go back and look at, like, it's pretty egregious. Like, it's not subtle. And I think anyone that's not white would have noticed. Because that's the kind of thing that you see.
And also, I feel like that's also one of those things where it's like, what is the actual relevance of that? Do you know what I mean? Like, that didn't happen. We're talking about a thing that did happen, and you're trying to say, well, it might not have happened. And you're like, well, it did. So, as we were saying...
That's so true.
Do you know what I mean?
So
what do you call that? It's like...
I don't know.
People love to do that.
They do. They're like, if no one had ever said that, then no one would have thought it was racist. And it was like, well, that's because it was racist and it did happen.
Exactly.
Like,
well, the point is, it was racist. We said it was racist, and now we want you to respond to that.
It's like, why are we trying to conjure up a parallel universe?
Yeah, it's like a parallel false narrative or something. There is a name for it. I can't think what it's called. I can't think what it's called. I think it's like a false parallel or something.
Yeah. Drawing a false parallel.
Yeah,
that makes sense. It sounds good to me.
We're journalists now.
We are. You're published, so that's So obviously the cover was a scandal.
Mm-hmm.
Critics said that this is a quote, by darkening the photo of Mr. Simpson's face, Time gave him a more sinister appearance and thus was guilty of racism. And that I think that comes from the NAACP. And then the executive director of the NAACP accused Time of depicting Simpson as some kind of animal.
It's interesting how many of those comments, they kind of like, they are kind of racist, like the comments themselves. Do you know what I mean? Because more
they're going to talk about that.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, because more so, what he did was use the stereotypes of colorism and him being darker to try and insinuate that he was more sinister, which is racist and also comes from racist connotations. But what they're saying is they made him look darker to make him look more sinister. And you're like, that's racist.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I don't know how to word. I don't know if I worded that well. But I feel like they're accepting a racist narrative to say that he's racist, but also their opinion of it is racist. Whereas what, I don't know, not what you should say.
It might be that like this is 1995 and there is an element of like going along with the narrative in order to kind of
not
like
start a whole other...
pick and choose your battles, like, and to not derail the conversation away from the very obvious like racist thing that has happened.
Yeah, that's fair.
So the editor kind of says a similar thing to what you said, but he says it in a really, really bad way.
Oh. That's good because he's going to make me sound smarter.
So the editor of Times, James R. Gaines, another James, responded to the criticism with an electronic message on a computer bulletin board. I love the 90s. It's so cute. He said that the cover was supposed to be in some way iconographic. I don't know. Either's fine, I think. But he said no racial implication was intended by Time or by the artist. Just like, fine, but, doesn't stop it being racist. And then he says this. It seems to me that you could argue that it's racist to say that blacker is more sinister. But be that as it may, to the extent that this caused offense to anyone, I obviously regret it. And it's that kind of thing of...
You're so close. So close, but no accountability.
It comes across as very like, we're not the racist. You're the racist for thinking it's racist.
You're racist for thinking that what I did is racist. And it's like, how about everyone's racist? No, I'm joking.
Well, it is the 90s.
Yeah.
So Gaines also contradicts the account from the Illustrator about like the competition with Newsweek. And this is really funny. He said, though Time and Newsweek are obviously competitive in several arenas, the newsstand battle is neither fierce nor much on my mind from week to week. Newsstand sales are a very small part of Time's circulation, about 4%. And Time has been the newsstand and subscription leader for many years. Basically, like, no, it's not about our competitors, but even if it was about our competitors, we trump them in everything anyway, so shut the fuck up.
Oh, Lord.
He had an attitude that day.
Yeah, I was going to say, he was actually fed up. He was like, people keep asking me about this thing. Why would they shut up?
But did you know how much news was happening at the same time?
He's like, guys,
There's so much happening. I'm pretty sure like Columbine also happened around the same time too. Like it's actually maybe not. I might be
wasn't that
confusing that with something
97?
else. Scared that you know that.
Well, I only remember it because that's my birth year. Wait, let me. I did have a 1 week phase of being very interested in that. Oh no, it was 1999.
Oh.
That was a lot later than I thought.
Izzy's birth year.
Yeah.
Interesting. Anyway, maybe what am I thinking about? 1995. What happened? This is when, 1994. What happened? It was Princess Diana died.
No, Princess Diana died.
And it kind of brings us to so the weird reversal of the accusation, the kind of I'm not racist, you're racist, and thinking it's racist, was analysed in The Colour Complex, The Politics of Skin Colour, which is it's a good book. I read some passages from it. And it tackles the question of why is there a general agreement in the American population that darker skin equals lower morality? And it's a good question. It's an interesting question. And it means that we have to look at some art history. Woohoo! So, to understand why this semiotic artistic choice was made, we need to understand what light and dark symbolize in art. This is the Holy Family at Night by Rembrandt. Well, it's not actually by Rembrandt. It's from Rembrandt's studio. So it would have been made by one of his students, because that was a thing that the Dutch artists used to do.
That's crazy.
It's mad, isn't it? And
it's
then
fashion.
It's essentially it comes from the house.
This is my art house.
Would you like to say what you see and how this painting makes you feel?
I'm looking at a room, and I'm wondering what the light source is supposed to be. I guess it's the book. Maybe it's the Bible. I don't know. And then there's a baby that just looks like a very small man in the cot.
Yeah, that's Jesus.
Oh, it's Jesus. So it's not the Bible then?
Well, kind of like it is kind of ahistorical. Like the room itself is not supposed to look like, Palestine in year 1. It's supposed to be kind of like a Dutch
that
interior.
Doesn't look like a manger to me.
This is post manger Christmas issues. This is he's like 5 months old or something. He's grown out the manger. So it's the two women that are with the baby Jesus is Mary, and she's reading a book. Again, it's ahistorical because Mary would not have read a book. And then the older woman is...
That's why there's no words on the page.
She's just
reading a blank page. She's just telling stories.
Bless her. And then the older woman, whose shadow casts like she's got this long, dramatic shadow behind her, is Mary's mother. And
Jesus' grandma.
Yeah, Gigi. The idea is that they are a family surrounded by darkness and are, oppressed peoples. And there is light coming from the family unit. From the book, you could interpret the book as being the Bible or kind of analogous to the Bible. The idea is that it's this sort of source of light and inspiration in the middle of deepest, darkest winter. And it's it's a good example of how light and dark can be used to elicit emotion, and kind of are always used as oppositions to each other.
Yeah, like yin and yang and stuff like that. But I always also think when I see, I don't have a history or art background, so I'm going to sound so stupid when I say this. But when I see old paintings like that, I always think of those videos you see where they clean them up and they're actually not as dark as they look. Because, I just thought for ages that everyone loved painting in brown. And then it turns out the paintings were just really dirty. So I'm wondering if they give it a little clean up, little spruce, is it going to look like a normal room? You know, maybe we're adding all the wrong context. On it. Yeah, exactly.
Suddenly it's like, oh, damn, pink. Everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. I was half expecting there to be like a little goblin hiding under the stairs or something. They always have like a weird satanic creature hiding in the shadows.
There is a bunch of like, there's a bunch of analysis and about the symbolism of the stuff, but I think this is more of an exercise in studying light and dark with like a religious background to it. I think
we went to church. We know what it's like.
Yeah.
Candles everywhere.
Bloody love a candle. So in Western culture, black and white are opposites. And this is a quote from Art and Visual Perception by Rudolf Arnheim. In perception, darkness does not appear as the mere absence of light, but as an active counter principle. So essentially what that's saying is that darkness isn't just the kind of the absence of light. It's sort of its own entity. It has its own kind of meaning and presence and weight. So if you think about it as like, if you think about personifications like gods and goddesses that represent day and night, you know, the darkness isn't just, you know, sun goddess isn't here anymore. It's also its own thing that has meaning. And for Christian context as well, day and night really become the kind of the visual metaphor for the conflict between good and evil, heaven and hell. Even like in the very first parts of the Bible in Genesis, it starts with God separating the dark and the light. So it's this idea that they are two physical substances that have to be separated out. This is, I misspelt it. Oh well. This is Melancholia, number 1, by Albert Dürer. Do you want to say what you can see in this?
An angel of sorts. Is that meant to be a dog or a cow? It's very scary.
Dog.
I don't like that. But then there's like a little cherub behind them, I think. A fat diamond or like a very weirdly chiseled big old rock.
Yeah.
And then there's like a star in the sky, maybe. It's a little bit more difficult to see, but that's kind of what I see.
Yeah. There is,
I like that they put the title in the drawing as well.
Yeah.
This one's called.
I bet you felt really fancy writing that out. So it's an engraving, and it's quite like a masterful like example of how engravings can be made and printed. It's really quite incredible. Particularly, a lot of this, in my opinion, it is just him kind of showing off like, what he could do. Like that smooth steer in the corner.
Like, damn.
The like examples of different shades of dark and light on the
fabric, the feathers.
Exactly.
This looks like every still life thing they make you do in art GCSE put into one.
Yeah. Exactly. Again, this could be its own sort of podcast episode, this piece of art. Because it's got so much in it. But I wanted to talk about it because do you know where the word melancholy comes from?
I've definitely been told that before or read it before, but I can't think of it right now, so I don't want to make myself sound silly.
No, it's okay. It's sounding silly as like...
Holly's the smart sister in the family.
I'm not. We're all very smart.
Yeah, but
you do realise that.
You got the autism, so you've got like Smart Express, you know.
That's true.
It's like a cheat code for being smart. I'm joking, by the way.
No, I think there's some truth to it. So melancholy, if you split it in half, so first half is melon and last half is collie. Melon, think like melanin. So it means black, or black pigment or dark, darkness in general. And then collie is bile. And do you remember? Ha! Like you were there. But do you know about like the humours and the theory of medicine. That,
that you've got built up stuff in different parts of your body and stuff like that.
Right. So black bile, melancholy, was believed to be the cause of depression. So if you're depressed, it was because you had too much black bile in your body and you needed to get rid of it somehow.
Quit smoking.
Yeah. Essentially,
Cough that tar up.
Tar lung.
I didn't know that. Well, I knew about, but I didn't know that about the word melancholy. That's interesting.
So again, you see, why in Western cultures, dark is so associated with sadness, depression, negativity.
I think in a lot of religious backgrounds, there is always this depiction of darkness to compare to the lightness. So it's like something to strive towards so that you don't fall into that other thing. It's kind of used as a threat, I guess, of you
can't ascend to heaven if there's no threat of hell.
Yeah, otherwise you'd just be like, I'm chill here.
Yeah. That's why I don't really understand Protestants that much. No, we don't need to get into that.
Next. Veto.
I have another quote from Arnholm, which unfortunately does have some old-timey racism in it, but it's the argument that the quote is trying to make is that art speaks to kind of a more instinctual level to people, more so than reading. So the quote is, "Knowledge has made us stop talking like children, ancient chroniclers, or Polynesian islanders."
Ooh. Ooh, the cringe. I just cringed.
Image of the world.
0.5% Polynesian in me is screaming. No, I'm joking. But yeah, that was uncomfortable.
Oh, do you know what it is though? We're Melanesian.
Huh?
You know when Mum did the DNA test, it came back as Melanesian, which is another example of melon meaning black. So Melanesian people are the kind of indigenous people to the north of Australia or the Indian Ocean. And they kind of look like black people, but they're not. They're separate. Race science is a whole thing. I do not need to get into that.
Yeah, I just don't know if I've got that in me today.
No. But that's what we are. I don't know why he took a shot at Polynesian people.
Yeah, that feels so random. Like, shots fired.
I need to check that this guy's maybe he's just Australian or something. I don't know. Anyway, that was half the quote.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Our image of the world, however, is all but unchanged because it is dictated by compelling perceptual conditions that prevail everywhere and always. So basically, what he's saying is that we, as much as we might know and as much knowledge as we might have, the way that we view the world will always kind of be on that instinctive, I call it the lizard brain, you know?
Mm-hmm. Lizard mammal brain, a monkey brain, lizard brain. Those are my favourite things to say. I'm like, oh my God, I'm being such a lizard right now.
It's that thing that makes people afraid of the dark or nighttime. It's a instinctive
Don't
level.
Talk to me about being scared of the dark. Jeez.
I know. Oh, honey. And then, of course, we have good old Carl Jung.
Mm-hmm. I knew this would come up. This old guy.
He uses the term shadow for the inferior and less commendable part of a person. So we can see why people associate darkness with less morality or more negative things and lightness with more positive things.
I mean, I would argue a lot of people hold their immorality very close to the surface and in the light, but OJ Simpson being one of those people. But sure, go ahead, Young.
And because we're talking about America, we get to talk about cowboys.
Woo!
Did you know that in old Western films, the bad cowboys always wear black hats and the good ones always wear white hats?
Oh, dear.
I know. It's not great.
This is like when Mum bought me a chessboard when we went to the Cayman Islands. And she bought me a chessboard because I was always really into playing chess. And it was literally First Nations versus the white people that invaded
Oh my
the
God.
US. And I obviously grew up and then one day was like, oh, I have a really fancy chessboard somewhere. Took it out from under my bed and I was like, what the fuck?
Oh my God.
I know. I think it's still at home. Yeah, it's...
Oh my God.
Yeah. My love for chess.
Why did she buy that?
I don't know. She wasn't woke back then, innit? Her new favourite thing is that she's woke.
I don't know. Mum's woke now. Dad's a dad and mum is woke. So a black, and this is also why hackers call themselves black hats and white hats. So if you're a black hat hacker,
oh wow,
you do it to, like, I don't know, do fraud and crimes. And if you're a white hat, you're doing it to, I don't know, release information about dodgy stuff that's going on in
why
the
not
American
do
government.
both?
¿Por qué no los dos?
That's what I would do if I was a hacker.
A little bit of money laundering and then a little bit of good stuff.
Of, like,
life is always about
erasing
balance.
People's student loans, a little bit of that, yeah.
Just to be extremely clear, I'm not making an argument that the fear of darkness is, like, inherent in any way.
Well, also, when it comes to these things about being inherent, we've literally existed for so long that you could argue that inherent is... So I used air quotations there. Well, I forgot we were on a podcast. But you could argue that inherent is also learned. Do you know what I mean? It's like, when you say inherent, you just mean generations ago, but they learned it. Do you know what I mean?
It's social.
It's not like an inherent thing of being a human. It's a social thing that we learn. Like, when it's dark, you can't fucking see. So someone might come and run up and kill you. Or, like, the bear might get you. I don't know.
It's generations of mothers being like, kids, please don't play in the fucking dark in the woods.
Yeah, like, you'll fall down a hole and I'll never be able to find you because it's dark down there.
You get eaten by a bear and I'll never know what's happened to you.
Exactly.
Like, and then it, like, that intergenerational trauma manifests in us in, like, well, the weirdest ways.
Yeah. Sorry, I think I took us on a tangent there.
No, you're fine. Absolutely fine.
It's just like, why are we still talking about nature versus nurture? Please.
Exactly.
Please. Exactly. We've done enough.
We've settled it. It's
both.
No, that's too complex.
Or
it has to be one or the other.
Oh God, I like love psychology, obviously, but I also absolutely hate it because I've never understood how can you live your whole life thinking that this way of thinking about the world is correct. Like, what a strange way to see the world. Is like, this perspective that I happen to have invented, by the way, is also the only way that anything exists in the world. It's like, oh my God. This is what happened when men are educated. No, I'm joking.
So I just wanted to make it clear that I'm not making the argument that people being scared of blackness is, like, you know, natural. But this guy would. This is Thomas Nelson Page. So we're talking about America and we're talking about color. So we have to talk about slavery and the caricatures white people have used to stereotype black people and oppress and dominate them.
Of course.
So during slavery, the dominant stereotypes of black people were generally that they were kind of childlike. And this was really to justify slavery as, like, again, I'm going to use that word, natural order, that the white man has a kind of paternalistic duty to keep enslaved people because if they're not kept, then God knows what they'll get up to, you know?
And there was always those, like, terms like savage used as if living a savage life was worse than being chained and put in boats by hundreds of thousands and all of that stuff.
Yeah, like acting like the sugar plantations were not savagery, you know? Yeah. That's wild. During the radical Reconstruction period, so that's 1867 to 1877, kind of during and post Civil War, lots of white writers argued that without slavery, black people would revert to criminal savagery. There's tons of Reconstruction period fiction that is basically just white people being really anxious about the new social order. And these two cartoons are actually from a northern newspaper. So these are not from the deep south. These are northerners who are pro-union making these kind of cartoons about the abolition of slavery. If you think of the enslaved person, the stereotype of them was that they were kind of harmless and childlike and ignorant. And now you have the free man, and that is a kind of an adult with adult needs and is politically aware and could be dangerous. And this all kind of all of these anxieties and prejudices came out in a new character that the Jim Crow Museum, where I got a lot of my information from the Jim Crow Museum. It's a really excellent resource. They've titled this The Brute. The dickhead on the last slide. The dickhead on the last slide, Mr. Page. Mr. Page would be a great drag name. Oh, God, yeah. Okay. The Reconstruction author Thomas Nelson Page, he popularized the archetypes of mammies and sambos in his early books. And then he introduced the brute in his book Red Rock, which was published in 1898. And this character was called Moses, and he was a black politician who tries to assault a white woman and then is lynched. The assault or the deflowering of a white woman was the most mentioned crime in association to this caricature. And it's just like nothing is ever new. Like you see the same arguments from like racists in the UK who talk about like Asian grooming gangs and that they target white girls. And it's exactly the same thing. And the comic on the right, the cartoon on the right is an example of that. It's a freedman who has a white wife who is serving to him
Excuse
breakfast.
Me, Tom. I just burped.
Oh. That's okay. You're fine. Not nice. Not good. This is an excerpt from a different book, another kind of a book about white anxiety, another Reconstruction novel. When a knock is heard at the door, a white woman shudders with nameless horror. The black brute is lurking in the dark, a monstrous beast, crazed with lust. His ferocity is almost demoniacal. A mad bull or tiger could scarcely be more brutal. A whole community is frenzied with horror, with the blind and furious rage for vengeance. Again, it's this like characterizing a black person as an animal. You could see what the executive of the NAACP, why he was like, you've made him look like an animal, why that was such like a powerful statement to make. This likening of black men to animals is also in Charles Carroll's I'm not going to say that word, A Beast, or in The Image of a God. A Beast, or in the Image of God. And I chose to include this cover because it does a little graphic design trick that might be kind of familiar. So do you see like how the oar is like right up into like the neck area of the person or the caricature, so that actually when you first read the title of the book, it looks like it says a beast in the image of God.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like this is what it reminded me of. Okay.
It kind of feels like it's posing a question, but also giving you their answer at the same time.
It reminded me of this. This is the cover for If I Did It, Confessions of the Killer, which is a book that OJ Simpson wrote after, spoiler alert, he was found innocent in the criminal trial and then guilty in the civil trial. And he basically owed the families loads of money. And so the idea was he will write the book and they will sell that to make the money to pay the families. Obviously, the families were like, yo, like, what? because he wrote this whole book about, like, if I had murdered them, this is how I would have done it.
Wow.
It's a confession. He also writes, like, most of the book is about his marriage to Nicole, and then there's like a chapter about the murder. And then the rest is just like him feeling sorry for himself. Mm-hmm. The Goldmans there was a legal battle, and the Goldmans took control of the book, the property, the intellectual property, and they made sure that when it was published, the title always looked like it said, "I did it," instead of "if I did it." And I think it's interesting to see the same little trick used across centuries, and also like in very different ways, because obviously the Goldmans are entirely justified to imply that OJ did it because he did. Possibly the most infamous example of the brute in American media is in the 1915's hit, The Birth of a Nation. What do you know about The Birth of a Nation?
Nothing. I don't think I've heard of it before.
Oh, you're so lucky.
Yeah, I don't think I've heard of it before.
So, it's an adaptation from another Reconstruction fiction called The Klansman, by Thomas Dixon Jr. The film follows two families post-Civil War. One is Confederate and the other is Unionist. It shows many, many, many racist conspiracy theories that will sound really familiar. I'm just going to run through some of them.
I could probably guess them.
Yeah. There was a real... people were really paranoid that Black people would mix race so much that you wouldn't be able to tell who's Black anymore. And so one of the plots in Birth of a Nation is that there are politicians who are secretly Black. Voter fraud comes up. Voter fraud, white people being disenfranchised, not allowed to vote, threats to freedom of speech and political affiliation. And of course, the threat to white women. The brute in the film is called Gus. Gus is played by Walter Long. His plot is he attempts to assault a woman who instead jumps to her death. The Klan lynch Gus, and this retaliation becomes the driving force for pro-Reconstruction politicians to push their agenda and disenfranchise white people. So it's like this early sort of almost like Alex Jones level conspiracy theory of like there's this false flag attack, and like I can see this playing. It's really sad, but I can see this playing out like today, almost word for word. I don't know why the Klansmen look like they have toilet plungers on their heads, but it did amuse me. They look really stupid.
They do. They look silly.
Yeah.
They look like they forgot their pointy triangle bits and just put the pointy bit.
And this is the actor who played Gus. Anyway, then this is a much more contemporaneous example to the OJ Simpson trial. So in 1988, George Bush, senior, not George Bush, Iraq War, George Bush, he was campaigning for president, and there was an attack ad on his Democratic rival, Michael Dukakis, and it just invoked the white fear and anxiety around Black men. And I will read the transcript to you. Bush and Dukakis on crime. Also, it's the video has the weirdest voiceover I've ever heard. I'll try and give you a sense of what it's like. Bush and Dukakis on crime. Bush supports the death penalty for first-degree murderers. Dukakis not only opposes the death penalty, he allowed first-degree murderers to have weekend passes from prison. One was Willie Horton, who murdered a boy in a robbery, stabbing him 19 times despite a life sentence. Horton received 10 weekend passes from prison. Horton fled, kidnapped a young couple, stabbing the man, and repeatedly assaulting his girlfriend. Weekend prison passes. Dukakis on crime. God. And the video, the the advert looks like these screenshots. It's incredibly 80s, and just playing up to this fear that is already like really deeply felt in American culture. And I knew this before I started researching this topic, but I didn't really think that I would find so many kind of consistent examples of it through history. The other thing is that the brute is also a staple in pulp fiction and erotic novels. It's this whole taboo thing that people get off on, and it's pretty gross. So now that we have this background knowledge, let's have a look at the Time cover again. I think now that we kind of know what we know now, I feel like I have a better understanding of why people were so upset and outraged by this cover. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I don't know. For me, it feels kind of like I knew that already. No, that's not what I'm trying to say. But like, I don't know if I need all that history to be able to look at that cover and not feel the way that I feel. But I also know that I come from a particular background where those are the sorts of things that I think about on a relative. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's more, you can see all of the little tactics that have been used.
Building up over time.
And how repeated those tactics are.
It feels to me like they saw this repeated fable play out in real life, and they kind of like jumped on the opportunity for the real life example of like a white woman being attacked by a black man. And it's like, by using that, what is a kind of, it's almost like a folk tale or like a myth, it strips away again, like it strips away the intimacy and the like reality of the crime and what has happened between these people. And again, it also takes away the other victim. It takes away Ron, because that kind of complicates the narrative a little bit if you include him. I also want to show you, it's the last thing I'm going to show you, something I found today, and I want you to brace yourself before I show you.
Fucking hell.
Are you ready?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yes, it's what you think.
Is that... I don't even know if I want to say what I think that is. You tell me what it is.
It's OJ as a white man.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was. But I also thought it was John Travolta in the beginning.
So this is a Wired cover from September 1995. And they deny this, but lots of people think it's a kind of response to the Time cover.
What, where they tried to blackify him and now they're going to whiteify him. Yeah.
This is what they have to say about it. Would society have reacted differently to the OJ Simpson trial had he been white? First, just stop there. Like, yes.
Obviously.
That was the question John Plunkett, Wired's founding creative co-director, wanted to raise with the September 1995 cover, a photo altered to make Simpson appear Caucasian. At the time, Plunkett recalls, Photoshopped imagery still had the capacity to surprise in a way that's difficult to imagine today. I don't know, this is still very surprising to me.
Yeah.
The picture was widely mistaken for a critique of the infamous Time cover that darkened Simpson's face, but that wasn't Wired's intent. Rather, we hope to make readers examine their assumptions about race. To the staff's chagrin, the manipulated image caused little stir. It struck us that technology had rendered that debate moot, Plunkett says. All images are manufactured to one degree or another. I don't know what the hell they're talking about. Like,
what is it with people doing racist things and then people say it's racist, they're like, ha, you thought this is racist, so you must be racist. You're like, but you did the racist thing.
They're like, it sounds like they were disappointed that this wasn't a bigger deal, because like I found this today. I found it on Pinterest, and I was like, what is that? Oh, that is okay. And like in all of the research that I'd done for this episode, like this hadn't appeared very much, and so it seems like it kind of fell on its face. But I feel like they were trying to get that same kind of attention and the same outrage that the Time magazine thing had, and they were like,
also trying to say that it wasn't a response to that, which doesn't make any sense.
They're saying it's a response to racism in general, and it's a bit the headline is weird as well. Like it says guilty, believing is seeing. I'm sort of like, what are we doing here? Like,
yeah.
What are we doing?
And also he wasn't found guilty.
Right.
And if he was white, he definitely would have been found guilty. Do you know what I mean? It was a shock that he got found didn't get found guilty in the first place. And then they put next to this white version of him guilty. It's like...
It's again doing that thing of like, well, imagine a world where he was white and he was found guilty. Wouldn't that be crazy? And it's like, no, real life is crazy enough. We don't need to be doing all of this. Like, like,
why do we need to make up scenarios when the narrative is already there?
Yeah, I'm deeply unnerved by white OJ.
I also don't know what they mean by believing is seeing.
I think they're trying to say like, oh, are you shocked by this? That's big. I don't know.
I really don't know what their intention was.
I don't think they had any idea either.
They did not do an art history lesson with their sister.
Oh.
That's why.
Was it? Oh.
But I would have loved to have seen the board meeting, though, where they all decided that this was a good idea.
Who pitched this?
Yeah, who pitched that?
It's so funny.
It just feels like they've mixed up loads of different topics and narratives that were happening at the same time.
It feels a little bit like they did the Photoshop first.
And then they were like, now we need to come up with something so we can put it on the show. Or this guy came to the meeting was, guys, look at what I've done. Slams it on the table. Everyone goes, oh, it's a masterpiece. It's amazing. The fuck are we going to do with that?
Unreal. Mm. So here we are in October 1995. OJ is innocent. He's not, but, he's found innocent.
Mm-hmm.
So we think the stereotypes of black men and imagery from American history affected the verdict? Probably.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I mean, you can't talk about the OJ case without talking about race in America and history.
And also how they tried to use race to affect the jury, like all members of the jury. Like for black members of the jury, they wanted OJ to appear more in touch with his heritage, and whereas with the white jurors, they wanted him to show the parts of himself that they would relate to.
Yeah, everyone was trying acceptable parts of him.
Yeah, everyone was trying to utilize his race to up it or to emphasize it or to try and ignore it depending on which way it would benefit them.
Yeah, and then the only people who are kind of the whole thing does such a disservice to the families and the victims. I wanted to show you the kind of JoJo's. What the fuck did I just say?
Wow. Jojo Siwa.
I wanted to show OJ's kind of ascent into innocence as demonstrated by the 3 issues of Time magazine with him on the cover. I don't believe that it was intentional at all, but I think it was,
Maybe they'll try to argue that they just bought a higher quality printer. They're like, I'm so sorry about that. Our old printer was so shit. Look at this new one we've got. It's making everyone look so much better.
It's brighter.
Yeah. Yeah, you can literally see the
middle one as well. He's on a black and white background.
And it's split in the middle.
Yeah. Wow. That's a hefty metaphor. I wanted to kind of finish with a quote from the illustrator Matt Mahiran, who did the first cover.
Oh, not this guy again.
He's all right.
Is he going to call me racist?
No, not this time. I was quite pleasantly surprised to read this. I think it still has... Let me read it and then we'll talk about it. My inability to head off this controversy resulted from the combination of never having to endure racism personally, as well as being raised in a non-racist home. It was this combination of respectful upbringing and a respected professional reputation that I had no idea something I created would be perceived as racist.
That is so poor. Like, no. It's like, I just didn't grow up with racism in the house. I don't even know what racism is. That was it. He basically said, I don't see colour.
Oh, no.
Oh,
God,
no.
he is, isn't he?
Yeah.
Oh. The bar is on the floor because I was like, at least he acknowledged that he's never had to endure racism personally.
Yeah, but he's also saying that even if he had, he wouldn't know. He's like, I don't know what racism is. We never had it in my household.
Oh my God.
I've never had to reflect on why I feel certain ways about things in my entire life.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
I mean, I literally had such a racist thing happen to me last night.
Oh.
You didn't listen
I didn't listen to your voice.
notes?
No, I'm so sorry. I don't listen to your podcast. I don't listen to your voice notes.
Oh, it was bad.
Yeah, no, what happened?
Well,
we don't have to talk about it if you don't want to.
I mean, it's kind of relevant. Because it's a contrast in the experience of, a white illustrator and a non-white illustrator. I was on the train last night and there's these two guys and I described them as like estate agents with sun damage and who do a lot of coke.
Damage from the outside and the inside.
There's a lot of sniffing going on and not just because of hay fever,
Mm-hmm.
And they were standing in front of the button to open the door.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked over to the doors to get off and it starts bibbing. Beep, beep, beep. And I'm looking for the button. I'm like, where the fuck is it? Oh, it's behind that little cokehead. He was little as well. That also annoyed me.
It's always the little ones.
And then I looked at him and he moved to the side, but they were both also getting off as well. But he moved out the way of the button and I didn't reach over to press the button because obviously he should press the button.
He's closest to the button, yeah.
He's closest. His butt was literally just on the button. Sorry, actually, he's not tall enough for that. It was like the small of his back. And I'm looking at him. He's looking at me, and then his mate pipes up and does like a I don't know what kind of accent it was, but he was like, "Oh, press button." I was so racist. I just looked at them. I actually didn't process it until I stepped off the train. And then I was like, oh my God, what just happened? But I looked them up and down. It didn't take long. And gave them a donut.
I looked them down.
I looked them down. And I was just like, what? I only really processed it once I'd sat down in my car and I was like, oh my God, that just happened.
That is awful.
And that's why I'll never make a cover like this because this shit happens to me. It's so wild. Oh my days. On that note, it's a cheery one to finish with. Do you have any kind of final thoughts before we
just that
sign off?
Whenever these sorts of things come up, especially with us sisters, I am the white passing one of us three, I would say. And some people recognize that I'm mixed, but I would say almost always people are shocked to find out that I'm mixed. And I always obviously hear what you two experience. And yeah, I don't know. It just makes me... You know me, I'm the angry one, so it just makes me fucking
Sometimes I think it's a good thing that you don't have to, because
I'd be in jail.
You'd be in prison.
Yeah. But and also, as an outcome of that, you get people that will think that you're a space to say certain things, and then obviously we were raised very vocal, and that in itself is a privilege. I've always felt safe enough to be vocal.
I mean, it's not just a non-racist home; it's an anti-racist home, for sure. And
it's
also
a woke home.
Guys, our mum is so woke.
She actually... I'm not even going to say that. I guess that would have been mean. She's a lovely lady. But yeah, I think I'm always so aware of the privilege that I have, and also I guess I'm just aware. That's all it is, isn't it?
it's funny because like people think I'm white as well.
Yeah.
And then it's for some reason it's always the racists that somehow know how to like push my buttons. Or not push the train button. Or whatever it is. I don't know, mixing metaphors about traumatic events. Yeah. Oh, what a life. Did you have fun?
Not me giving the therapy. I'm sorry that happened to you. Thank you for sharing. And you're like, did you have fun?
Did you enjoy spending time with me today?
No, it was good. It was good. I feel like I've learned a lot, and I've also very aware of how I do not have the vocabulary to word what I'm trying to say majority of the time. So I think I need to read books.
Well, I think you did a really excellent job.
Thanks.
And I was really grateful for all of your insight into the kind of dynamics of domestic violence. And
yeah, if I want to come across smart, that's the shit that we need to be talking about.
That's because you are smart, and that is something you know a lot about.
It is indeed. Unfortunately, not from personal experience.
Well, no.
But unfortunately, I do know a lot about it because unfortunately, there's a lot to know.
Yeah. What's a life? Yeah.
Well, I'd be happy to come back and discuss those things another time.
I would love that.
Yeah.
I would love that.
Or anything to do with substance abuse and all of that malarkey.
I actually would love to do an episode about like depictions of drug users.
Oh, here we go. I'm like so ready for that conversation.
Particularly in the kind of like materials that we were shown in school to stop us from taking drugs, like the way that they depicted people who take drugs is so
and I think also because of that, the amount of people that you know are in active addiction that say, yeah, but I'm not an addict because their version of
I'm not like that. I'm not melting into the sofa.
Exactly. And they're like, yeah, but I go to work and I have friends. And you're like, yeah, but your life is falling apart around you and you're physically harming yourself, you know?
Yeah. You've got drips, you know? Your nose is dripping. Frankie, do you want people to find you?
Nah,
anywhere?
Fuck off.
Nah.
Get away from me.
Okay, then I have to do
at some point I will be more of not a public figure. No, not a public figure, but like my intention is to be a little bit more in touch with my professional side. I've actually started updating my LinkedIn recently, so.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that means that I have to do the plugs.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for listening. They can find me
sometimes at your house. And they can find me on the streets of Brighton. That's where I'll be. I'll be in the wagon.
In the wagon? Is that a pub?
Yeah, best pub in Brighton.
All right. Okay, that's where you can find Frankie. You can follow this podcast on Instagram at stuff.jpg podcast. You can find me at Holiday St Clair. That's 2 L's, no dot, CLAIR. And that's on pretty much every app. We have to say thank you to friend and producer Tom of Beneath the Skin and Lines Up by Donkeys.
Big up, Tom.
Thanks, Tom. Sorry about all the sniffing and blowing my nose. And I think Frankie burped at one point.
Twice. And also, I just make quite a lot of noises. Like, he'll probably be going through the audio thinking, oh, she's going to say something here. And it's just me going...
If you enjoyed the show, please tell a friend. Share the love. And that's it. That's a podcast. Okay. Thank you for listening. Bye.
Bye.